My wife and I were married like ages ago, and after years of spending money on anniversary gifts, we agreed to save the money each year and just do a dinner out. This past year has been a rough one for her, so I wanted to get her a little something, and this is how it arrived. Amethyst is her favorite stone, and while it wasn't the most expensive pendant available, it wasn't pocket change either. But a cheesy plastic bag? Really? I think I need to spend a little time in the wood shop. I had a little tight grain white ash left over from a previous project, and I love the look and strength of this wood. I didn't really want to make anything too big and bulky. She already has a couple of full-size trinket and jewelry boxes, so a purpose-built small and flat presentation box sized just for this pendant seems to be the right solution to the plastic bag problem. Sometimes when I get an idea for something I'd like to make, I don't really run through all of the engineering or assembly steps in my head until I'm well into the woodworking. And in this case, I skipped right over the part of the design where I would need to add hinges to the box. I really want the look of the box to be thin, but I wasn't sure if tiny box hinges would actually fit. I've got less than a week to figure that all out, or our anniversary would by default be a super exciting dinner out at Applebee's. Small wooden boxes are a cool way, even a personal way, to present something as a gift to a loved one. But, you know, there's always ways to make it even more personal. Since my wife's favorite flower is the tulip, and she went bananas in the Netherlands as we drove past fields of them, I thought I could embellish the top panel of the box with a tulip graphic burned in with my laser engraver. I always like the advice I've gotten from other woodworkers: don't be afraid to make big things. Mostly because I fumble with tiny boxes and really small wood projects, being stuck with these ham hands. And while this really isn't considered to be a small box, I still need some sort of recess inside those two flat panels to accept the pendant. It isn't a big problem really if you have a router and you can make a cutting jig, so, you know, that's the path I chose to take. Sometimes in these videos I forget to mention the little shop tricks that really help out during a project. In this case, I'd like to give some props to this roll of wide golf club grip tape. It's thick and double-sided and is pretty amazing for holding things down on the work table without any clamps. And while this is one of the noisiest and more dangerous tools in the shop, the router is perfect for this kind of woodwork when you need to hollow out a void on a flat piece of wood. As for small boxes and clumsy hands, it's either use this tool or try to cut perfectly mitered tiny corners on this thin wood stock. Pick your poison, I guess. The bottom wood piece of the white ash was thicker, so I cut a deeper oval there, with a slight recessed oval cut into the tulip top. I knew I would have a hinge problem because with a thin box design, I wasn't sure that the wood would be thick enough to accept these tiny brass hinges and screws. I also didn't think there was space for a small knob to open the box, but a half-moon bit on the router table cut a nice little recess between the wood layers to serve as a finger pull. I also beveled the top edges to frame the tulip. I'd like to find a way to skip clunky hardware altogether. My recessed pull to open the box was resolved by that half-moon router bit, but I also had a closure problem. How could I close and secure the box without adding latches and screws? It was at this point where I fully came to appreciate the coolness factor of some hidden rare earth magnets. These are simple enough to be buried below the surface of the wood, keeping it smooth across the closure, and a couple of small steel screws on the thinner top of the box would attract to the magnets and keep the lid closed. Some epoxy for the magnets was added with a little tape to hold everything flat, and the small screws were buried flush with the top. With the two wooden pieces constructed, I felt that it would be a good time to final sand and then finish the outer parts with some gloss lacquer. I think this is a good point in the story where I should share my love-hate relationship with spray lacquer. I love how even and deep the gloss finish looks on unstained wood. I hate the price per can. I love how fast it dries between coats. I hate the fumes it generates. I love how you don't need to sand between coats. I hate that it isn't great for any surface that might get wet. There's polyurethane for that after all, but lacquer shine is awesome. Anyway, after 4 coats, lightly rubbed with steel wool in between each, the finish looks amazing. All that was left to do was everything else, including the cover-up of the inside of the box with some sort of material. I had considered using some reclaimed leather for the inside, but this old pool tablecloth was purposely designed to stretch around corners. I also wanted to be able to add some tabs to the inside of the base so that they could hold on to the pendant chain somehow. A thin piece of plastic was cut smaller than the wooden oval and then glued to the wool fabric. This will add some more structure to the cloth so that I could cut some tabs into the plastic. Folded open, they would be able to hold the chain. Pool tablecloth is mostly wool with some nylon, and while it stretches really nicely around corners, the final assembly of the box didn't really go all that smoothly. I had some trouble lining up the top and bottom wood pieces squarely and tightly, while the glued fabric just wanted to grab onto anything that it touched. Leaving the salty language out of the video, I was finally able to line up the plastic oval inside the bottom piece and stretch the fabric to connect the top. Once the glue gets pressed into the form, it's a permanent bond. No more adjustment allowed. The wool fabric hinge seemed to work really well as is, and that immediately put an end to the whole brass hinge discussion. I think the clean lines of this thin little presentation box needed to stay clean, and even the tiniest of brass hardware would mess up that look. In the end, the thin pendant presentation box looks beautiful, and it'll make a nice gift for our anniversary. Of course, I can't publish this video until later in the week, no spoiling the surprise, and best yet, it's better than a dinner out or even an overnighter to a touristy hotel. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Please help our channel with a like, a subscribe, and then tell your friends about us too. Take care.